Hello everybody, Justin from Playing Board Games here, and do I have another list video for you. First off, I want to say thank you so much for your support on the first entry in this series, and yes, worry not, I'm going to be doing it for each class. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 secret cards that you should give a second chance. Whether it be cards that can fit in most decks or cards that are better in specific decks, I have 5 cards here that I'm going to talk about, dive into a little bit, and we're just going to chat about and have a good time about why I, and maybe you, should give these cards another look, whether they be, you know, for your next run or a run 2 runs from now. Our first card here is going to be one that I've talked about a lot previously on the channel. And I promise I'll stop talking about it eventually, but this card actually surprised me with how hard it went in a specific deck that's built for it. So this is Otherworldly Compass. This is a 2-cost, 2-experience asset that takes up the hand slot. It's an item and a relic. As an action, you exhaust Otherworldly Compass and investigate. Your location gets -X Shroud for this investigation, where X is the number of revealed locations connected to your location. I already hear everyone getting ready to start saying now, this is just a worse flashlight. And if you're using it as just a worse flashlight, then yes, obviously it's just a worse flashlight. But in the right deck, this card actually goes surprisingly hard. This was one of my biggest surprises when I did the Play All Card Challenge. I did this in a Trish deck where I played it with Lola Santiago, and I was routinely getting 4 Shroud locations to 0 Shroud locations, and then turning those into free clues with Lola Santiago's ability. This was something that I think was very powerful, and the Trish deck did very well because of that. With one action, just every turn, essentially getting 3 clues, because you also have Trish's abilities going off with Lola Santiago. It was a really good time. With that said, I'm obviously with the thought process here is that you need to actually be building around Otherworldly Compass to make it work. So you need to have someone who can either run Lola Santiago, like Trish Scarborough can, or alternatively, you can also look at someone like Daryl or Min, because I think that Otherworldly Compass would go very hard in the Test at 0 archetype. I think it's unlikely that Test at 0 is going to get more pieces to make that archetype stronger, because that archetype is already quite strong. However, what you can do to make that archetype stronger is to look at other pieces that might exist, and there might be another one on this list that we're going to be talking about in the near future. But yes, on the tin, if you're using this to just reduce the shroud value of your location by 2, you're looking at flashlight. But if you're using other tools to make your tested 0 more consistent, so you don't need to you don't need to dig out more pieces, like you have like a flashlight that never ends and you just want to do this when you want, or if you're working with Lola Santiago, Otherworldly Compass goes very hard. On this note, I will say that the card pool now is so big in this game, and this is kind of why I'm approaching this series. The card pool has actually gotten so big in this game that if you have everything, you can pretty much build what you want to do, which is one of those things that now in certain decks, some cards that are normally staples in other decks are actually getting outclassed by other things that just work better for the deck. At a certain point, we reached a tipping point. Earlier in Arkham's life, you were looking at just strong staples to make your deck good. But I think at this point now, with the full collection, we've reached a tipping point where decks are built better with synergy in mind, and that's why I think Otherworldly Compass is better, because of those reasons of synergy. On to our next card here, we have Persuasion. So we're going to be talking about the taboo version for this, because that's where it is more relevant than it was previously. So Persuasion is a 2-cost event. It's an insight and a trick parlay. Choose a non-weakness enemy at your location and test book 3. So we're dropping the humanoid from this. It's just enemy. This test gets +X difficulty, where X is that enemy's horror value. If you succeed, shuffle the chosen enemy into the encounter deck. If the chosen enemy is elite, automatically evade it instead. Earlier on in Arkham's life, Seeker enemy management was actually just damage. and when I mean earlier on, I know this is Forgotten Age, but it also like actually wasn't really enemy management until the taboo happened, because the humanoid there obviously was there for flavor over function, and thankfully in a recent taboo they went for function over flavor, which I can understand can rub people some wrong way because you can't really persuade a Gug to leave you alone, but at the same time, I'd rather a card be playable than a card be only flavorful and then, you know, suck because of it. But earlier on, Seeker's enemy management had a lot of damage options, so it didn't really feel that much different than other classes and how they dealt with enemies. Persuasion, especially with the new taboo, is welcoming in this new era of Seeker enemy management that we've seen with things like Existential Riddle and most recently in Transmogrify. So you have ways to deal with enemies, whether it be temporary to lock them down, etc., etc., and then they might have a downside to it. For example, an enemy with Existential Riddle or Transmogrify might cause you to, like, Doom might go on that enemy, so like it can suddenly change things, or an encounter card might get attached to that enemy and you need to solve that enemy. And Persuasion's downside is that the enemy can show back up. So why should you give this card a second chance? It's because as I think that decks are stronger, while yes, you can specialize, it is a lot easier to just be like, hey, I have one card that can just solve this problem in an emergency if we need it. And if I don't need it, it has relevant icons. So because this has relevant icons of Book and Brain, it's always, you know, available to be used in a pinch if you need to, but also like in the right time. A card that just like one action, one test, which was your highest test as well, which will be Book because you're a Seeker, get rid of an enemy, at least for right now, is great. What this also does, I'm also not looking at the elite function because I'm looking at this as enemy removal, not elite evasion. I'll just evade the enemy in that case. But what this also does is something that might not be as apparent on the tin, is that this nullifies an encounter card down the road. Now, you might not agree with that in principle because you're still drawing an encounter card, but you're using this on an enemy to get rid of it when right now the enemy is a problem. But who's to say in 4 turns that same enemy isn't going to be a problem, right? Like that enemy is going to be a problem. It might be something that you can actually manage. So if you're able to persuade an enemy to go away and come back later, it can come at a time when the encounter card actually isn't a problem. Your goon can deal with the enemy that shows up, or, you know, like you have more of a kit built in, or your rogue can be like, I got this, right? It's one of those things that you would rather draw an enemy at a different time when you're more set up and able for it, as opposed to an encounter card that might cause someone to test brain and take some brain horror or something like that. So it's one of those things that while it doesn't actually stop an encounter card, it kind of does, because in downtime, you want to see enemies. When you don't want to see enemies is when you're not in downtime. And what Persuasion does, it allows you to take that enemy that shows up when it's not downtime and turn it into an enemy in potential downtime down the road. So I think that's why this card is worth it. I don't think it goes in every Seeker, obviously, but if I was playing it in a Norman deck recently, and it actually really worked from top to bottom, and I was pretty happy with Persuasion. Anytime I was able to, it was in Forgotten Age, which I think is really nice. It's from that expansion. Being able to like tell a snake to go away is a very nice change, to just be like, hey, I want to deal with you later and not right now. Next card we got on this list is none other than Cryptographic Cipher. So this is a 3-cost, one-handed asset. That's an item and a tool. Level 0, uses 3 secrets as a lightning bolt. Exhaust Cryptographic Cipher and spend 1 secret. Investigate. Your location gets +1 shroud for this investigation. As an action, you can also exhaust Cryptographic Cipher and spend 1 secret. Investigate. Your location gets -2 shroud for this investigation. So this, like Otherworldly Compass, a lot of people probably feel like it's just a worse flashlight. And again, if you're playing it as just a worse flashlight, I got news for you, it's gonna be just a worse flashlight. But this card is actually quietly quite impressive. At least at level 0, you'll probably go out of it as you get later into the campaign. But at the same time, if you're building around it with secrets, again, as I said earlier, synergy is now key for deck building. It's less about just putting in the dummy big cards, because you can actually just do better with synergy. That's when Cryptographic Cipher might stay the entire time. So this card, I was first impressed by it. Travis and I did a limited collection run ages ago, and Travis was playing Cryptographic Cipher in his Amanda Sharp deck, which makes sense because you can use the Lightning Bolt to get an extra ability out of Amanda's skill that's beneath Amanda. And the whole time I was just like, this card is actually pretty impressive. As a Seeker, you can kind of choose depending on what you need. So for example, if you're at a 4-shroud location, you can use the flashlight function. If you're at a 1 or 2 shroud location, you can just snatch up a free clue, and free clues are really good. I do think that Cryptographic Cipher does need to be built around a bit in order to it actually be worth that second chance. So as I said at the start of the video, there's a little bit of an asterisk where sometimes these are just individually the card, but sometimes these are also just the entire like package around it. You need to kind of like put some thought into it. And I think that's something that I think Cryptographic Cipher will really sing in. I actually want to, like, myself, while I was putting this together and looking through cards, I was like, I've never been upset with this card, but I don't really play it as much as I should because I think it actually is quite powerful of a card. I just like flip by it, and that's why it's in this video, because I think I myself should give this card more time, because I think in the right build, it's really nice. Yes, it takes up the hand slot. It competes with Magnifying Glass. Yes, it costs 1 more than a flashlight, but it competes with Magnifying Glass, but there's so many other ways to now passively boost your book in Seeker that you can, you know, turn that +1 book while investigating into an additional clue each turn, which is what we hunt for in this game all the time. Yes, it costs 1 more than Flashlight, but Seeker economy is really good. You have your Burning the Midnight Oil, and you can take advantage of it. And that secret synergy to like make sure you're using this over and over and over again is where I think this card really starts singing. I want to build a Daisy deck where I basically am using this and like, or no, maybe a Norman deck either. Like a Norman deck can also sing with it. But I kind of want to play with that secret synergy, so like Daisy's jumping to me. But I want to play with like this and Cryptographic Cipher, sorry, this and Summon Servitor, and just like have as many investigates as I can while I'm playing the game on my turn. I think that seems like a really fun time. So, yeah. Okay, let's go to card number 4. We're just zooming through this one, and that is In the Know. So this is a 3-cost, 1 experience talent asset. It uses 3 secrets. As an action, spend 1 secret and investigate. Investigate any revealed location and play as if you were at that location. So this card was flagged to me by this in Persuasion. My Discord brought this up as a possibility to include on this list, and when I was going through, I thought, yeah, I think In the Know deserves the time here, because as I got a little bit deeper into it, the thing about In the Know that made me be like, this is worth a second look, is how it changes your structure for a turn. And I believe this is something I did say in the previous Guardian video, but I'll say it again here just in case you did not watch that video, which you should, by the way. Anything that changes how you can pace out your turn in Arkham is worth a look, because it can potentially open up avenues to victory that you might not have seen previously. So an example of this is, say for example, you reveal a victory location, and that victory location doesn't help you win the game, but you want to get that victory. With cards like In the Know, this allows you to take advantage of your ability to move to other locations, grab other clues from other places, advance the game, and then get your In the Know down, or if it's already down, start using your In the Know to pick up those clues off of that location. Alternatively, you can leave clues and keep moving and keep revealing, so this can allow you to spread out, grab the board, gather information, realize what avenue of victory you need to be approaching, and then pick up clues off In the Know when you want to, right? When you need to, where those clues might be hanging out. So it's one of those things that it was my own realization that I've had recently about Arkham, that anything that changes how I can dictate the pacing of my turn can really enhance my ability to win the game. This came First from a survival knife, level 2, when I played 2 of them and I was able to use so many of my turns to advance the game, and then I just like moved into a location with enemies and I just killed them in the enemy phase. Yes, you're taking some risks to get some reward, like within the the risk is that, you know, it costs 3 experience, it's 1 experience. It doesn't do much on its own, but if you put it all together into like this beautiful gumbo, this cosmic gumbo, you can turn it into great things. Like with Cryptographic Cipher, I think this card gets better if you're able to use it more than the 3 times. So like Secret Synergy is really good, Ariadne's Twine, or the whatever the event is called that lets you add secrets to things. I think that these are all things that enhance this package and make it even better. I think that like with this and Cryptographic Cipher, if you use them together, I think that can be a really good thing. On to our final card here, and this one's mostly for me. This one's mostly for me because people have been saying it for a while, and I'm going to talk about it, but I'm also going to pitch it to people who might be like me and might not want to play it. And that is Unearth the Ancients Level 2. So this is a 0 cost, 2 experience insight event. It's investigate. Choose up to 2 seeker assets in your hand. The difficulty of the skill test equal to the combined cost of the chosen assets. If you succeed, put the chosen assets into play one at a time. For each relic asset put into play by this ability, draw 1 card. So this is obviously a fantastic upgrade over the level 0 version because it lets you get a clue and it lets you put in multiple assets. I think the other one is just 1. I could be wrong. It's garbage. I don't want to play it. But I don't play this one for personal reasons, which is that I don't like my economy to be dependent on other economy. It's like I actually play Uncage the Soul, a very similar style of card in the Mystic class. It reduces the cost. You play a spell or ritual asset, reducing its cost by 3. And I've been playing that less. I've been playing the upgraded version more because it's always functional. But I don't enjoy when my economy requires me to have the pieces to play my economy. With that said, it's probably an incorrect opinion for me to not play this as much as I do because I think the card is actually like pretty good. It's saving you 2 actions, right? Because you're going to be putting them into play. It's very easy for you to pass the test because most of the things you want to put in, you're probably going to put in like 4 cost in total. And if you're a seeker who can't investigate a 4-shroud location, like that sucks for you because you probably made some choices. And if you fail, it's ultimately not worse because you're not losing the assets, right? It's just like you're taking a risk to make your economy better, and the card is basically just it's asking for an action to just get some action compression, right? Like all you're really risking for this, like compare this to the Shining Trapezohedron, where if you fail, you can't play that card again for the whole round. If you fail this card, you're basically just like failing an investigate action you had to commit a card to, right? Like that's what really is happening on the worst case, which is not too terrible. However, there's some other things you can do with this card that right now work. So this is something that I didn't realize at first, but it is actually accurate. You can actually also commit the cards to this. So you can choose the 2 assets, commit them to the test, and then you get to play them afterwards. This is something that is subject to potentially change. This is not a for sure full thing. Like it works as written. So there's an FAQ section for this on the Arkham DB because I heard about this and I wanted to see if there was more information about it. But they're saying like basically, yeah, right now it works, but we may revisit that in the future. So yeah, like with the Crystallizer of Dreams and like breaking and entering level 2, if you can commit it from the breaking and entering from the Crystallizer and then return it to your hand if you succeeded by enough on your initial play of the breaking and entering, you can commit you can commit the cards that you want to play with this, and then they will still go into play, which basically means that you're essentially reducing the difficulty of the test and making it more likely for you to succeed. So I think all these things are all these perfect storms to pop off to succeed really well. And then if they're relics, you just kind of get gravy on top of it. I think honestly, a problem that I had when I first was looking at this card, and part of the reason why it's also here, is because I focus too much on like getting the full value that I wanted to get out of this, but I think really the full value that you get out of this is just playing the cards. So I'm putting this here, once again, mostly for me, but also for someone else who might not be seeing it. Am I going to be playing Unearth the Ancients all the time? Yeah, I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to give it more shots. That's why it's in the video. But for the other ones and all these other videos, I hope maybe they are also resonating with you and you want to give them a second try. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back very soon to do the Rogue video. Huge thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to support the channel, please don't hesitate to join our Patreon. We have a $3 pledge level at the lowest tier, and it all means the world to me and the channel for you to do so. But thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, GG's!